Let's talk about that, because since Kirk's assassination, we have seen, in particular, the Zionist lobby weaponize his murder to call for, this quote war against the radical left. You had, is it Brian Mast has pushed a bill to authorize the Secretary of State to revoke passports to, quote, kick out terrorist sympathizers out of the country. This, of course, follows Tom Cotton, November 23, after the genocide had started, after October 7th, demanded a Justice Department national security investigation of news outlets such as AP, CNN, New York Times, Reuters, for publishing photographs, images of October 7th. They've weaponized, it was fascinating as you have at once this breach between Kirk and the Zionist and the Israel lobby, yet at the same time, his assassination, his elevation to martyrdom is really being used by the Israel lobby to go after, everybody who not just criticizes Israel, but I think everyone on the left.
Yeah. I mean, they see the left as the main base of BDS and elevating this issue to a national crisis. The left is their main target. Netanyahu sees a marriage of radical leftism and Islam, what David Horowitz called the Red-Green Alliance, as the main threat in the U.S. And so in his first Fox News appearance, before the suspect's identity, the main suspect being Tyler Robinson, was even known, Netanyahu blamed Muslims. He blamed radical Islam for doing this. The same way that he declared in comments to Ma'ariv, or reported in the Israeli paper Ma'ariv in 2008, that 9/11 was good for Israel. If Muslims could be found to be responsible, well, that's good for Israel. It's also good for the GOP. The Utah governor openly declared during a press conference that he was praying that the culprit would be a foreigner and not one of our own guys, meaning Tyler Robinson of Utah. I mean, he just openly admitted it, standing right in front of the Kash Patel, an immigrant from India, the FBI director, who looked kind of uncomfortable in that position. The identity of the killer and the motive was determined before Charlie Kirk's body went cold. And the agenda was already there, the same way that the Patriot Act had already been assembled prior to 9/11, 2001. And it is an agenda of mass repression, crushing dissent, basically criminalizing what they consider anti-Israel activity. And we've seen this week with Brian Mast's bill, which is basically Israel's agenda to strip Americans of citizenship if they're accused of providing material support, which can be anything, to Iran and Israel's enemies.
Well, it's not just to interrupt, Max. People who have provided legal advice to groups are accused of providing material support to terrorist groups.
Yes, okay. And there is no due process for them under this bill. Normally it would go to a court. In this case, it's left up to the exclusive authority of the Secretary of State, someone created by the Israel lobby, basically an AIPAC plant, Marco Rubio. And where's Marco Rubio right now? Marco Rubio is kissing the wall. Right now he's leaving the Kotel in the old city of Jerusalem, where he was he had to carry out this humiliation ritual that every U.S. politician who wants to rise does, where they have put on a kippah and Netanyahu takes them to the Western Wall and they have to basically kiss the wall. It's like, up against the wall, motherfucker, you want to be a politician? And he's there with Mike Huckabee, the Christian Zionist, who really believes in that stuff, who is basically managing, he's the U.S. wing of genocide management in Gaza right now, overseeing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's starvation siege. It's just a shocking display to witness. And then back home, you have Stephen Miller, who himself is an arch-Zionist, who is running the entire agenda for Donald Trump right now. He's sort of the brains, the Rovian brains behind this authoritarian crackdown that they want to implement, telling Sean Hannity that we will put you into exile and we will take away your freedoms if you minimize Charlie Kirk's death. We will put you into exile. What does that mean? It means taking away your citizenship. This is what they want to do. It's on the table. It's playing out on social media in a vigilante fashion where it's like a site like charliesmurderers.com is doxing thousands and thousands of Americans, not only for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, which I personally found like just deeply antisocial, to be a form of antisocial behavior that just shows a kind of lack of humanity, but also, minimizing his death or calling him a racist or, putting his views in context, and they're losing their jobs. It's a dystopian scenario. The right wing is playing cancel culture to the extreme, but it's playing to win. Unlike the left, which was sort of just trying to enforce a very narrow moral code by getting people canceled or going after, people in the media within their own media organizations and so on. The right is playing to win. They want to fully isolate dissent, left-wing dissent from society, and they're exploiting this in a way that raises a lot of questions. There's been no full investigation of this shooting yet. Tyler Robinson is not cooperating. I haven't seen the confession. Apparently everyone close to him is cooperating. We don't have the information, but they don't care. They want to ram through this agenda, which totally dovetails with what they've been doing with ICE. ICE isn't just about immigration. It's about normalizing secret police in our society that violate people's Fourth and Sixth Amendment rights and are able to essentially kidnap anyone who is a resident in the U.S. and take them to de facto concentration camps. And the budget, Trump's big, beautiful bill, has put these secret police on hyperdrive. The kidnapping of Latinos who are suspected of being undocumented migrants is a pilot program for a larger agenda.
Yeah, without question. I mean, and of course, the expansion of these detention centers are, regionally going to have, in essence, de facto concentration camps dotted throughout the United States. What do you expect to see coming? They've gone after George Soros. The insanity of it. But what are we going to see in terms of their game plan over the next few weeks and months?
Well, I hate George Soros, and what he's done across the world is malign. He's a CIA adjacent.
Well, let me just interrupt, Max. George Soros did exactly what the AID democracy initiatives did, which is crush any kind of popular or resistance movements. That's the kind of final irony, but yeah.
Exactly. And this relates to a wider conversation, I think, about the left. The post-BLM left is the role of foundation money in the left. I know Christian Parenti's working on a book about this, how this foundation money from the Ford Foundation, Open Societies, was basically used to suppress and sort of neutralize anti-war and class-based activism within the left and get people more focused on issues that didn't threaten the Democratic Party, which was controlled by the rich, like anti-racism. Not understanding the racialized roots of poverty, but just this vague concept of anti-racism and all of these other social issues. It's a sort of separate conversation, but where I think things are going in this country is very dark and recalls the years of lead in Italy. The years of lead were driven by, or punctuated and accelerated by, political terrorism and political assassination. It was a strategy of tension which was being orchestrated by the intelligence services, not just the Italian intelligence services that were affiliated with NATO. The CIA was involved, and Israeli intelligence may have been involved as well in the killing of Aldo Moro, the Italian prime minister. So let's consider the 1969 Milan Cafe bombing, Piazza Fontana bombing. This was like what launched the years of lead. And it was a false flag operation that was carried out by stay-behind armies recruited by the CIA under Operation Gladio from far-right fascist groups, which would have collaborated with Hitler during his occupation of Italy, as well as they were also recruiting within the mafia. And it was blamed on left-wing anarchists. That's not what I'm saying happened here. I'm just talking, I'm trying to make a larger point. The reason that the security services did this was they actually did fear in some way far-right fascism, but their primary concern was communism and leftism in general. And they felt like if the situation became destabilized and the public became afraid, they would adhere to the security state's agenda, which was, in that case, pro-NATO. I also mentioned the kidnapping and killing of Aldo Moro. Aldo Moro was the last of a kind in Italian politics. 1978, he was kidnapped by the Red Brigades, and it really accelerated the social unrest and fear that the middle-class Italian public felt after following Gladio and everything. And he was held for days by the Red Brigades. They put him on a mock trial. And then after killing his security team and kidnapping him during with his motorcade, and they accused him of selling out the working class and making Italy an imperialist state. But if historians have looked back at what Moro was doing and seen that he was actually privately allowing arms to pass through Italy to Palestinian resistance groups, that he was taking a very not necessarily friendly stance toward Israel, that he was a friend of unions and working class syndicates, and that the Red Brigades had actually, this is confirmed, the Red Brigades had been infiltrated heavily by the intelligence services. Many suspect the Israeli intelligence service. And it crushed the national unity government and actually moved Italy further to the right, to the point where now Giorgio Meloni sort of reflects this legacy as this right-wing leader. So the strategy of tension in the U.S. has been building since 2020. And I can point to one incident then that I think is a perfect microcosm of what I'm talking about. Kenosha, Wisconsin, the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, which is poorly understood by people on the left who supported BLM. Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in a vigilante fashion to guard local business with his weapon out, along with other local men, from looters and rioters who were destroying local businesses in a completely nihilistic fashion. A group of pro-BLM marchers was marching around soon after looting. They were not smashing up businesses, they were just marching randomly. And their own crowd had been seated with people who had never protested before, one of whom was a local mental patient, a young man who had just been let out mysteriously of a local mental hospital and dropped off at their demonstration by police. The police directed the marchers directly to where Kyle Rittenhouse and his group of vigilantes were, and several of the marchers began physically attacking Kyle Rittenhouse. One pulled a pistol on him. Kyle Rittenhouse shot them. He also shot the young man who had been a mental patient. And this inflamed racial hatred across the United States, as Kyle Rittenhouse was actually accused of going across state lines to hunt down black people. The police had no reason to push the crowd and direct them to where Kyle Rittenhouse was, except to inflame that conflict. Do I know that there was some higher order there? No, but this was what I was seeing in my own, just being out there in the country at the time. And it was also at a time when COVID was beginning to grip the country and the unvaccinated were being pitted against the vaccinated. We're just constantly being pitted against each other by narratives that come from the top. And that is where Trump wants this to go, because Trump has promised a new golden age for the 1%. It's not for the rest of us. And the 1% has been terrified not just since the Charlie Kirk shooting is primarily terrifying the podcaster class. Since the shooting of, I think his name was Brian Johnson, the United Healthcare CEO, by Luigi Mangione. Steve Bannon, former Trump chief of staff, gave a talk to a group of financial elites and tech elites. I believe it was in Silicon Valley. Many of them were not Republicans. And he said, here is our promise to you. Here's why. This was like, I think at the beginning of the second Trump term. He said, this is why you should support MAGA. Because this guy, Luigi Mangione, went out and shot one of you. This is going to happen more and more. We are entering a period of social unrest and social turmoil, and we will protect you. So what we are going to see now is a policy crafted for the elite that is terrified of this environment, and at the same time a policy to drive us, the rest of us, who have nothing, who are in debt, who are don't really see much of a financial future in the U.S., they're going to pit us all against each other through a strategy of tension and then repress us all and let us say whatever we want online. We won't be banned anymore. We can say whatever we want on Elon's Twitter X. We have freedom of speech. As he said, we have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And that freedom of speech will be used to surveil us further and ruin our lives if we are provoked into saying the wrong things.